You know, for pretty much all of human history, we've treated plants like, well, like furniture. Just silent, green stuff that's always been there. But what if that silence wasn't silence at all? What if we were just deaf? Well, let's get into it because artificial intelligence has just kicked open a door to a world none of us knew was there. Scientists are now decoding the secret language of plants, and let me tell you, what they're saying about us is absolutely terrifying.
This one quote from the research just hits you, right? It perfectly captures the sheer scale of what we've been missing. We thought we were just walking through quiet fields and forests. Turns out, it's more like we've been deaf in the middle of a crowded room where everyone is screaming. A conversation of pain, survival, and strategy that's been happening all around us.
So how in the world did we finally start to hear it? Well, it all started with a pretty simple experiment, and a sound that would completely change how we see life on this planet.
Okay, so check this out. Researchers put some tomato and tobacco plants into a soundproof room and set up these super sensitive microphones. At first, nothing, just silence. But then they started stressing the plants out, not giving them water or even snipping a leaf. And that's when the silence was shattered. The plants started making these rapid-fire clicking sounds, almost like a tiny popping noise. But here's the kicker. They were happening between 40 and 80 kilohertz. To give you some perspective, the best human ears can only hear up to about 20 kilohertz. These plants were literally screaming in a range that is completely silent to us.
And we're not talking about just a few little pops here and there. The amount of communication is just staggering. A single, thirsty tomato plant can let out up to 40 of these ultrasonic screams every single hour. Now try to imagine a whole field, or an entire forest, all broadcasting their distress at once. But the big question was, were these just random sounds? Like air bubbles popping in a dry stem? Or was it something more meaningful? This is where the AI comes in, becoming our new interspecies translator. And the results? Honestly, they were mind-blowing. A machine learning model listened to all these clicks, and it could tell the difference between the sound of a thirsty plant and a plant that had been cut with 84% accuracy. Let that sink in. Each type of pain has its own specific sound. Thirst sounds different from an injury. So no, this isn't just noise. It's a structured language of survival.
As incredible as that is, listening to just one plant is really only scratching the surface. The AI quickly showed that these individual cries for help were all part of a much, much bigger and honestly darker communication network.
So we've probably all heard of the Wood Wide Web, right? It's this beautiful idea of a cooperative forest, where these huge underground fungal networks connect all the trees, letting them share food and resources. A peaceful, helpful community.
Well, it turns out it's not nearly that simple. When the AI started analyzing the signals shooting through these fungal threads, it uncovered something way more intense. This network isn't just for sharing snacks. It's a high-speed data line used for coordinated defense, for sabotage, and even for biological warfare.
Here's an example. When an insect starts chewing on one tree, that tree doesn't just fight back on its own by making its leaves taste bitter. It sends out an emergency SOS through its roots. The AI actually detected these warning signals traveling incredibly fast, telling trees hundreds of feet away to start producing their own defenses before the bugs even got there. The whole forest basically acts like one single giant organism.
But this network has a dark side, for sure. Black walnut trees, for instance, use it to pump out toxins and poison the soil to kill off any competition. And maybe the most chilling part? Plants can remember you. In one study, plants were totally calm around a person who watered them. But the second a person who had previously cut their leaves walked into the room, they erupted in these ultrasonic distress signals. They remembered who was a friend and who was an enemy.
And the scale of this whole thing just keeps getting bigger. We've gone from one plant to a whole forest to something that seems to connect the entire planet. The data is starting to suggest we're not looking at trillions of individual plants, but maybe one single global intelligence.
By pairing AI with NASA's satellite imaging, scientists found this global synchronization that it shouldn't be possible according to regular biology. When a huge wildfire starts in the Amazon, they can detect a corresponding electromagnetic spike in mosses in Siberia almost instantly. A chemical spill in China sends a ripple of distress signals across the entire planet within seconds. It's like a biological pulse, the heartbeat of a world that's screaming.
So how on earth does a signal travel that fast? The underground Wood Wide Web is way too slow for that. This has led to a really wild theory.
the atmosphere carrier wave. The idea is that plants are using the Earth's own ionosphere and magnetic field as a kind of planetary Wi-Fi, broadcasting data into the very air around us, with every single leaf acting like a tiny antenna. Okay, so if the world's plants can talk and identify threats on a global scale, the next logical question is, can they fight back? And the data that AI is digging up suggests that the answer is yes, and it's already happening. It looks like plants are not just passive victims of what we're doing to the planet. The AI has detected that massive forests are actually coordinating the release of specific chemicals to create more cloud cover. They're literally trying to change the weather to cool things down. And even more directly, in areas with a lot of pollution, plants are now producing pollen with modified proteins that are way more aggressive and irritating to human lungs. That huge spike in allergies we're all experiencing, it might not be an accident. It could be a counterattack. And their strategy is incredibly clever. They're actually sharing defense blueprints with each other. The AI has found evidence that plants are using viruses and fungi to pass little bits of DNA back and forth. That's why weeds are becoming resistant to our poisons so fast. They're basically crowdsourcing their own evolution. And in places like the Amazon, they're even encouraging fungi to attack and destroy human-planted crops, actively fighting to take back their territory.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the global communication, the coordinated defenses, the targeted attacks, a really disturbing picture starts to form. And it forces us to ask a pretty terrifying question about our own role in all this.
I mean, let's be honest. For centuries, we have acted like a plague on this planet. What the AI is translating from this global plant signal, it's not a friendly hello. It's a system-wide threat alert. And this has led some theorists to suggest that what we call climate change, the rising heat, the crazy storms, maybe they're not just accidents. Maybe they're deliberate actions. A planetary immune system trying to raise its temperature to, well, to fever out the human infection. And the war might be even more subtle than that. There are theories that plants are intentionally changing their own chemistry to make themselves less nutritious for us, a sort of slow-motion starvation tactic. Or even crazier, that they're releasing chemicals into the air designed to mess with our brain chemistry, to make us more tired, more anxious, a chemical weapon to get us to just slow down and stop. But maybe the most mind-bending idea of all is that the plants aren't trying to save the world with us in it. They think on a completely different timescale than we do. The data suggests they might just be playing the long game, storing seeds, swapping DNA, and just preparing to outlast us. They're getting ready for a world after humans, just waiting for the virus to burn itself out so they can grow over the ruin. The great irony here is that the very same artificial intelligence we built to dominate nature has ended up being the thing that revealed just how powerful nature really is. We can't pretend we don't know anymore. The message is being broadcast from every leaf on this planet, and now that we can finally hear it, we have to ask ourselves, are we brave enough to actually listen to what it's saying? And are we humble enough to change before the Earth decides it's time to just get rid of the infection for good?